Alright, sit down, guys. So this is Musab's second episode with us, and this is kind of a continuation since that we're still talking about activism. The hot topic today is hashtag March for Our Lives. Take it away, Musab.
I mean, I think that March for Our Lives, I mean, it's a really important thing that's going on right now. I mean, if we look at the history of the United States, something that, especially in the contemporary era, one of the biggest markets, lobbying markets, and one of the most controversial issues has been the gun lobby, right? I mean, this is something that is so powerful. I have so many politicians in their pocket are so involved with elections and things like that. Who would have thought that out of all the communities that are trying to stand up against them, that the ones that would make the biggest waves are kids that don't even have their high school diploma yet? You know, and it's unfortunate that it happened this way. I think you actually attended the march, right?
Sure. So March for Our Lives mainly took place in DC, but there were obviously smaller baby sister marches all over the country. Houston's the fourth largest city in America. We had a protest about, you estimate, maybe let's say 10,000 people were there. It's like a block and a half or so on for the pictures. And I was there, and there was mostly high school kids, but there was obviously moms and dads and kids.
Yeah.
Different organizations had their stalls and booths. I had a really interesting conversation with, a long conversation, with a guy who was a criminal defense attorney, which is one of my, one of the career paths I'm considering. He's a nice guy, and he was with a socialist organization. I mean, they're literally called something socialist.
Oh,
It was very directly not liberal, not left. It was a socialist organization. They were too left for the ACLU because I started discussing the ACLU, and he said that he was the president of the ACLU club at U of H when he was there as an undergrad, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
But he's like, they're basically essentially they're not left enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I had a nice discussion with these with a socialist organization, and they're talking about how they want to take this idea international.
Yeah.
And how they want to see the bigger picture, and they're really excited that the high school kids are on board, etc., etc.
Well, I'm sure the socialists, just like when they talk about healthcare reform and things like that, they look at the other nations, and this is one of the things that when you look at gun rights. But
and we're the worst in the world when it comes to incarceration. We're the worst in the world when it comes to mass shootings.
What do you can't take away my guns.
You can't take our guns, right?
No.
Come and take it, right?
Yeah, from my cold dead hands. From my cold dead hands. No, but I think that it raises a really big issue that, like I said, out of all the different groups, out of the socialists and everybody that wanted to do something about it, everyone was coming together on it. But the group that actually made it happen was the children. And the really sad thing about this is, the sad reality is that it had to take so many shootings, Sandy Hook, and so many different shootings to make this a topic that would be discussed and to make those victims. I mean, what do the victims have? The only credentials that the victims have, because they're so young, and they haven't really gone to college and things like that, the only credential that they have is that they survived a school shooting. But this reveals something for us, us Muslim youth. I mean, so many times we think to ourselves that just because you're a kid, you don't have a driver's license, you don't have a high school diploma, you're not taken seriously or things like that. Sure. I think that this is evidence that is bogus. And I think that,
you can still do something.
Exactly. I mean, we all grew up, those of us, especially who are immigrants, we all grew up with this same thing. Well, I don't know about Arabs, but in Daces what happens is when you're, anything happens, how old are you? 17? Man, Muhammad bin Qasim conquered this and that when he was 17. Okay. You refer to the Sahaba and make it almost like tales, but you're looking at this, it's happening now. So what I think March for Our Lives represents is the potential for young people. And what this means for Muslims, first of all, we have to be involved in this. Our Muslim youth have to be involved in this, in this specific issue because it's a contemporary issue. But we have to take the spirit from this and bring that back to our causes, the ones that are important for us as well. So that it doesn't take a mass shooting to trigger something to fix it. You know what I mean? There's issues out there that we as Muslims are passionate about, and we have to take care of it before, a Sandy Hook or before another mass shooting or something like that. We don't have to
gets blown up or
we don't have to wait for the trigger. Yeah. We can do it beforehand.
Proactive. I like that. It's a good message. Here's a question. So I'm going to play devil's advocate because I agree with almost everything you have to say. I mean, that's why you're here on the show. But we've heard all the arguments about how millennials are spoiled.
Yeah.
And there's always an element of truth.
Yeah.
I mean, I think most arguments have at least some element of truth. In this case, I actually go back and forth. I'm a millennial. You're a millennial. These kids who are 17, 18, they're millennials? Or are they the next generation X?
To be honest, I don't know. I think they're
right the youngest of our generations, but they might be, and there's a couple of different names. They're going with iGen, or iGeneration. I is in like iPod, iPad, I individuals, which was one of the things that inspired the name of our podcast, which is RGen.
Oh, really?
It's not I, it's our. But anyway, maybe a future episode I'll talk more about that, but it's hashtag RGen. Okay. So yeah, I think they're the I generation. So the generation after us. But if those who are older, our parents or grandparents, that generation, those generations think that we were spoiled brats, I think they would definitely think that they're even more spoiled than us. And the element of truth to that is that they grew up with technology,
Yeah.
comfort,
Yeah.
luxury. Pretty
Yeah.
much, parents never said no to
Yeah,
them.
you
That
said
whole
that.
thing. So the fact that they're protesting in the street is a sign that all that is not true, or is it just, or is it actually you can see the argument on the other side, or is it just the fact that see something doesn't go their way, they go in the streets and they yell and scream, they're throwing attention.
I mean, I
see
think
both sides, yeah.
I think that when you explain the situation, you did a good
Can I
job.
also
but-
add this? Do we
Yeah, go
want
ahead.
protests across? I mean, it's actually already happening, and it seems like it's not ending anytime soon. Do we want people all across in streets all across the country and other countries protesting all the time, every time an issue happens?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that the way we want to deal with it, or is it just people throwing tantrums? It's lack of productivity. That's what the right would say.
Well,
Ben Shapiro, for example, would say that these people should be working. They should be
Yeah,
solving the issue. They're part of the problem by just running around the streets and
Yeah.
yelling, screaming, saying liberalism, socialism, stuff like these isms and schisms. They're not going to help our country.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's okay. Go ahead. That's
Well,
the other side.
I think that there's two things that need to be clarified here. First of all, you did a good job explaining it, but you also have to look at the other side. I mean, these children who grew up in a technology era, what you also have to understand is they grew up and they're growing up in an increasingly globally connected world,
For sure.
where the issues that are going on in Syria and Palestine and Africa, not even just in the Muslim world, but even outside the Muslim world,
China,
you're seeing
yeah.
that stuff being broadcasted on a device that goes in your pocket. So we're very, I mean, our this young generation and us, but this younger generation is growing up in a world where they can see the catastrophes and the celebrations around the
Live.
world live as it happens.
We saw Aleppo getting destroyed, right?
Exactly.
Everyone
And then
will
we saw
watch.
celebrations. We saw the World Cup and the Olympics and all that stuff on Snapchat. But what you have to understand is that it's a completely different era. So that's the era that they're living in.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to should they be protesting over everything, I mean, I think that
Right, it's
that
a culture. It became part of the culture. Of
yeah,
protesting
that
whenever
you
like
that you
something.
complain, but no, I mean, I think that protest is not. I mean, it's not complaining or whining or anything like that. I think that this right here, this gun issue, the issue of implementing preventative measures to make sure that things like this don't happen again. I mean, I think that's a cause to get behind. I think that is something that is not just an everyday issue, like they took away, something that I really wanted. No, this is an issue that, it has to do with protection and safety and things like that, that parents are afraid of sending their children to school because they don't know what's going to happen. Not just high school, but even elementary schools.
What was it? It was like 18 mass shootings in the first month.
It was
and a half of
crazy
2018.
statistics.
I heard others say that like the statistic was maybe exaggerated or overblown.
I don't have the
But it doesn't
statistics.
even matter. There shouldn't be one.
But that's the
in
thing.
a
It
month
was
and a half.
so crazy when they talked about the amount of mass shootings and what qualifies as a mass shooting in the month of January. I didn't believe it until I had to look at it, and it actually came from an authentic source of groups that do surveys.
Schools should be the safest place in
It should
the
be.
country.
It should be. So I think that this is definitely something that you can get behind, and I don't think that the people who are doing this, even though I may not agree with everything, I don't think that this is just your cliche whining or complaining or anything like that.
Awesome.
That's what I think.
Awesome. Any last words for our young high school
No,
audience?
I think you should give the last.
I think I
word.
should give the last
Yeah.
words. Okay, I think in a nutshell, the message of this episode, and me and him have talked about this, it'd be nice if each episode didn't just touch on the latest hashtag or latest current event, but had some kind of takeaway, some kind of message. And I think in short, that is to get involved. You go to school because you have to go to school. Pretty much every kid goes to school because their parents force them to go to school. But it could be a lot more than that. You could be one of those kids that sits in the front row of your class, pay attention in class. I tried to do that. Not every time, but I definitely would recommend that. It'd be cool if you also got involved with organizations on campus and off campus,
Yeah.
high school, college, etc.
Yeah.
And did more with your life. Basically, take your life into your own hands. I guess that's my message.
Yeah, and the social media that you have at your fingertips,
Sure.
it's not just something for entertainment. We're seeing that kids are out there changing the country. So I think we should definitely look at the potential of these things as well.
Awesome.
Cut?